Hello everyone, hope everyone's doing well. No sound and buffering. Uh-oh, that's not good. Can you guys hear me? I think I had two OBS programs open. Let me know if you guys can hear me, please. Okay, you can hear me? All right, awesome. Awesome. Okay. Let me get back to the chat here. Hey, Hard Eyes, FRV, Kristen, Anthony, Capri, thanks for being here. I know I'm doing one of these later streams. Hey, Michelle. But I'm gonna try and just do these live streams whenever I can, even if they're only a half an hour long or if they're 3 hours long. I'm gonna keep trying to expose this case for what it is because it's important. So I do kind of a lot of live streams. I think I don't know. I run out of titles to think of, because it's not like I have breaking news or something. But again, I'm just gonna keep going over this information that I've learned and that I've over the years from other creators and experts on false flags, psyops, orchestrated events, used to push multiple agendas onto the public. So I'm gonna keep teaching you what I've learned, like I said, and point out the things I've noticed in the Watts case, the many things I've noticed, red flags and characteristics that we see in other tragic events as well. So, if unfortunately there's not going to be any, as far as breaking news, it's going to be the same stuff. It's probably going to be repetitive, but that's because I've never changed my theory and I never will. I was going to go over just some notes that I jotted down that I forget to do whenever I'm in streams and other streams and that I haven't been banned from yet. The limited amount that I'm still allowed in, or ones that I just listen to and remember to jot them down so I can bring them up next in my next live stream. So, hey Foxy. Hey True Crime Analyst. Thanks for being here. So I was going to go over those. I want to also just show a couple of screenshots of some, not that you guys haven't seen them before, but I just want to get a mental image of what, not that serial killers have like a definitive look to them, but for the most part, they're not your Chris Watts. And in my opinion, it's done like that on purpose because, of course, they want you to believe that this, I don't think everybody will agree, but let's just compare to other serial killers. Chris Watts is not your average looking serial killer, right? Or he's somewhat of an attractive guy. Okay, he does have an egghead, but again, compared to other serial killers, or not serial killers, but murderers, he's probably a little bit more attractive than them. But, so not that they have a specific look, but they want you to think that if someone, again, like Chris Watts, who is an attractive guy, an all-around, family man, great husband, great father, great coworker, always on time, never talks back, just listens to his wife, will never hurt a fly. If someone like him can up one day for no, actual definitive motive. Again, we got some little tidbit motives here and there, but law enforcement never gave us an actual motive as to why or how it's possible that Chris could have done what he did. Did what he did. Done what he did. Did what he did. I don't know. They both sound weird. Done what he did and did what he did. Either way. But so they want you to think that if someone like Chris Watts can do that, because you know how not everyone, but the majority of people are saying that I don't understand. He doesn't fit the profile. How could someone like Christopher Watts just murder his entire family? He had the perfect life. He doesn't have, not the perfect life, but he had a, middle class family, beautiful kids, beautiful wife, good job. They weren't hurting for money. Of course, the narrative says that they were because of the bankruptcy and stuff, but how could someone living that life and not have any psychological issues that we know of, because we don't even know if he had a psychological evaluation. I'm going to go ahead and say he didn't, because nothing in this case is real. So, and even if they told me, I wouldn't believe it anyways. I wouldn't believe if someone told me, or law enforcement told me, that he was in solitary confinement and he cried his eyes out for 2 days straight in the dark. Does that mean it really happened? No. So why would I believe it? Why would I believe anything that anybody tells me? And I know that sounds crazy. It's like, well, you got to believe someone sometime, Megan. It's like, no, I don't. Especially when these are individuals you're talking about that are corrupt, that don't care about us. They are doing it to push agendas. And people, again, like I've said before, are freaking shitty. There's some shitty people out there. So, that will do things, that they wouldn't probably normally do, whether it be for money or whatever the case may be. But, again, if the majority of people in the true crime community can agree that there's something not adding up about this case, and that there's a cover-up, or there's a lot of discrepancies from law enforcement, then what else are they capable of lying about? And could they possibly lie about the entire thing to, again, push multiple agendas? So I want to try to get you guys to really take a step back and think outside the box, or take a step back, look at it from a different perspective, and think about it things outside the box. Because I don't think that same perspective is working for others. It's not. I mean, it's just going over the same information, the same discovery, everything that we've been given, which is pretty much nothing. It does seem like it's a lot of information, but it's really not. I mean, you're talking about a quadruple homicide case here. A very, high profile, well-known case. I know that there's a lot of people out there that have never even heard of it. A lot of people in Colorado, they've never even heard of it. But especially with the Netflix documentary that came out, there's even more people that have now, or that now know about the case. So, but from what I can see, it seems to be just mostly on social media. And why is that? Because you don't see the mainstream media covering it. They haven't covered it in I don't know how long. You never heard them talking about the 35C or Chris, his multiple confessions that he changed, and oh God, I don't know, you name it, right? All this different breaking news that has come out about the case supposedly, but nothing's ever come from it, right? And it's all hearsay. I mean, literally, this entire case is based off of hearsay. I've still yet to have anybody, give me one example and prove to me beyond a reasonable doubt something in this case that isn't hearsay. It's not possible. I mean, this true crime is pretty much based on people just believe what they're being told by law enforcement and the mainstream media, and these family members that seem to be very highly engaged in the community, which is very odd. Hey, Veronica. Hello, Hope for Peace. Yeah, I'm not really sure how that happened, Michelle, but no, I do. I like RV. RV Truth. Yeah, he's good. And I don't mind being a mod in there because I can say whatever I want to say, which is nice. I don't have to worry about setting an example for anybody because I'm a channel creator. It's like, give me a break, It's like, oh, you're a channel creator, so you have to set some sort of example, and you're not allowed to have an opinion in another channel, or on another channel, or in their chat, because you're a channel creator. But then anyone who's a viewer Oh, it's fine. You can say that Chris chloroformed Shanann. You can say that Troy McCoy is guilty and committed all the murders. You can say that Nicole Atkinson did it. You can say that Shanann killed her own babies. But nope, if you're a channel creator, you're not allowed to voice your opinion unless you say, "in my opinion," afterwards. Well, hate to say it, but I'm not gonna do that because at this point, it's not my opinion, and I have, in my opinion, I have provided more than enough evidence, or as much evidence as I possibly can, to support my theory on this case. I'm not going to say prove it, but to support my theory on this case. And again, I can only give you guys the information that I've learned over the years, and what you guys do with that information is on you. I'm limited again to certain things that I can play on here. And I just thought of this right before I went live, and I said, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to play the Renegade Broadcasting. Her name is Sinead. I've played it several times on DLive, but I want you guys to see, and I'll risk getting a strike on my channel because, and I do want to warn you that she is a little bit more blunt than I am, or a lot more blunt if I do play it, which I think I'm going to, because it's important for you guys to know and to hear other people are talking about it. And it's not just me. It's not just me that's saying that these cases are being orchestrated in this true crime community. It's just the fact that she probably at one point did have a voice on YouTube, but she probably got her channel taken down. I think she even mentions it in the broadcast. Same thing with Facebook. We're being censored everywhere. I've just been, I think, a little bit more careful about what I've been saying, especially over 2 years, since I wasn't transparent as I am now. So, the other channel creators, they'll just come out and say, hey, you know what? People need to wake up. This is that. I mean, we're not here to sugarcoat it. Take it or leave it, right? But again, I didn't think that was really like the best approach either. Because I didn't really want to be that forward, and because I feel like sometimes when you're like that towards anybody who, well, one, probably has never heard of a psyop in the first place, or has been led to believe one thing for a certain amount of time, or many things, over the years, the last thing you want to do is say, wake up and start pointing fingers, because what they're going to do is they're going to back themselves, feel like they're being backed into a corner, and they're just going to want to retreat. So I try to take a different approach and do the respectful thing, and put myself in their shoes, and realize that, just because I see it or others see it so easily, it doesn't mean that other people are going to. And so that's what I'm here for. I'm trying to just, again, educate you guys on these events. And like I said earlier, what you guys do with the information is on you. I'm not here to sway anyone's opinions. I'm simply here because I'm confident in what I'm saying, and nobody else is doing it as far as I know, and especially to the extent and the amount of research that I've put into this case than anybody else. There might be, some others talking about on other platforms, but again, I don't think that they have delved into this case nearly as much as I have. So again, it is important to me, and it's important for everyone, because in my opinion, I can clearly see that there's an agenda being pushed, several. And I think that this case is even bigger than I realized, because I know that there's something that I'm missing. There's a much bigger factor than just, or motive than just, like the free speech and the fear. It's one of the biggest things in these tragic events that are orchestrated. It's, the best way to control people is with fear. So, fear is definitely one of the major motives behind a lot of these, as well as several others. So, like I said earlier, I was going to go over the notes that I jotted down really fast, but I feel like I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna play that Renegade Broadcasting podcast, because I think it's important. And again, she is very blunt. She says things like it is. There's no holding back. So if you are not ready for that, then I guess I encourage you to leave the stream. I mean, it's not like it's graphic or anything, but again, she's just straight to the point. And keep in mind that this was on quite some time ago, March 19th, which is kind of funny, 3/19. Who knows? Maybe she's on it. No. But it was quite some time ago, so that there's going to be some information that she mentions that it's going to be not correct. But also through a lot of the podcast, she reads comments from a specific video that was posted on YouTube quite some time ago as well. So she's going to throw in her opinions, obviously, and then she's reading other comments, which she will obviously let you guys know that. So I think that's what I'm going to go ahead and do, if that's okay with you guys. Let me look in the chat and just say hello to anybody that I missed. Hello, Nuckin. Thanks for being here. It doesn't look like we have any new people, and that's fine. I feel like the ones that are in the chat, I think that you guys are going to be able to handle this just fine, and I think that's probably even better that there's not a lot of people in here, because I don't need to trigger any of the, so all right, here we go. Just give me 1 second. Oh, and I will probably more than likely stop it periodically throughout it, just to commentate or maybe correct something that she got wrong. But for the most part, majority of what she's saying is what I've been saying for the past almost 3 years now. So again, I'm not the only one that's doing it. Okay.
You're listening to Renegade Broadcasting.
All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Fired Up. Please excuse my stuffy nose. I've got a little bit of a cold here that I've been fighting off, but I really wanted to get this show out to you guys because I've been looking into this for the last couple of days, and I'm pretty astounded at what I'm finding. Now, actually, Anthony of Renegade, who comments frequently, you've probably heard him in the comments before, always leaves some really awesome comments that make me laugh, keep me going. He had brought up to us in a private chat that, he thinks this Chris Watts thing is a psyop. And I've got to be honest, at first I was like, Anthony, really? I mean, come on. What would they have to gain? I know they like to demonize white men and everything, but come on. And I did honestly have that reaction. So it's so interesting that even when I consider myself pretty aware of the magic tricks that go on, they still work on me and they still work on you. I mean, this is crazy. So but I had it in the back of my mind. I was like, he's right about a few things though, because why would this guy take all the time to stuff his kids into an oil drum? Apparently the hole was really small and everything. And why would he bury his wife Shenanigan? Why would he bury her way over here? And what's up with Andarico or whatever it's called, this oil company that has ties to the military and all this? So I found some really interesting information about all of this. So basically, I'm just going to read to you some comments from this video. The video honestly was not very good. It was from Italian Lad 69 or something. And I think the video is kind of worth skipping, honestly, but the comments are what's very interesting. So I've also just this morning found 2 other videos, so I'm going to kind of go over those as we, do this show here. It'll be new information for me, but these comments in here pretty much seal the deal for me that I believe this is 100% bullshit. And this is coming from somebody who kind of rolled their eyes at Anthony, like, oh, Anthony, I love you, but like, really, dude? Yes, Anthony, you were right. So thank you for being right. All right, let's get into it. I think the reason that we don't like to even entertain these stories as being fake is that it's very hard for us to resolve that almost everything we hear on the news is like 100% fake. Now some people will call us auto hoaxers, right? Like Activist News, and I'll get into him on my Firestarter show. Auto hoaxers, where we just assume everything's a hoax. You know what? I'd say being an auto hoaxer is probably the best position you could take. Assume it's bullshit until proven otherwise. And now I knew that they faked shooting.
So I agree with her as far as, and I've said it on my other live streams, that not just with the mainstream media, but anything that you're told, assume that it's not true until proven otherwise. Let someone prove what they're saying to you before you just, automatically believe everything that you're told. And, the whole auto hoaxer thing, it's not like, there are some people that think that once they see one thing is fake, that everything is fake or everything's a psyop, but that's really not the case. I'm only questioning the ones that don't add up, that have red flags, and that are showing those same characteristics and red flags that they follow in the majority of these orchestrated events, specifically the tragic ones.
And terrorist attacks, but you guys, they've been faking these big dramatic murder cases forever. Think about Jean Benet. Now she might actually be dead, but I think the whole media frenzy was whipped up on purpose. And think about Kaylee Anthony and now Jamie Close and all these big cases that everybody talks about and obsesses over. All the true crime people are, entertaining that this is 100% real, and they get all emotionally invested in it because, it's a terrible story. A man murdering his pregnant wife and 2 little girls. It's terrible. But you know what? These things do happen. So that's why someone like me will think, look, it could be a psyop to demonize white men, but like, let's be real. Crimes like this do happen. Women kill children, men kill children, they kill, like crimes of passion, it happens. But then I have to ask myself, why is it this one that's so important? Here in my city, I'm part of the community watch thing online. I don't ever comment. I just kind of like watch what's going on. And there are violent crimes every day. This city is really bad for violent crime. But I don't see like Juanito down the street who like murdered his wife. I don't see them plastered all over the news. So you got to ask yourself, why this case? Now, some people will argue that, well, it fits an agenda, therefore they're going to pump up this case, like the Trayvon Martin thing, which I believe was fake as well. Whatever, if you think I'm crazy, that's fine, but look into this stuff. We were there for the case. Not like in the courtroom, but we were living in Sanford, Florida, when this whole
So like she said, and I've said it before as well, why is it that only some of these cases, because murder happens all the time. Like she said, it does. It happens all the time. I'm not saying that murder doesn't happen. I'm not saying it's real. Of course it's real. That would be ridiculous. What I'm saying and what she's saying is, why is it that certain cases, when you have all these murders, all these missing person and children cases, why is it that only some get so much mainstream media attention? And not just, so much, but a lot. To where it's just nonstop. Every single, news outlet is talking about it. The ones that gain the widespread media attention. Why is it that there's only certain ones that get so much media attention?
Trayvon thing went down. So, I mean, like, we went downtown, we checked out the courthouse. We weren't able to go inside, obviously, but there were media people out there. I mean, it was a frenzy. But that doesn't make it real. That doesn't make it real. The media are going to be all over anything, just like they were at Pulse nightclub, which I went down to and investigated on my own. That video is probably still up on Renegade Vids. Just type in Sinead investigates the homo cost. I went down there and I went behind media tape. Like, I just walked right in like I knew what I was doing. I figured the worst thing that could happen is that they would just tell me to leave, but I would say I'm pressed, because I was. I'm from Renegade Broadcasting, thank you very much. So I'm pressed. And I was just back there kind of checking it all out, and there are media everywhere. Does it make it real? No. That nightclub had like 9 parking spots, and there were apparently 300 people in the closed nightclub, by the way. That place wasn't even open. So, all right. Let's get to some of these comments, and I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say about all this. Well, actually, before I get to the comments, I want to just preface this with the whole Anadarko oil psyops thing. Now, one of their people is on recording, and I can play it for you in a moment. I'll read it too, saying that they need to use counterinsurgency psyops, so against anti-frackers. So here we go. Let's find this article. Okay, oil executive, military-style psyops experience applied. Last week's oil industry conference at the Hyatt Regency Hotel in Houston was supposed to be an industry confab, just like any other. A series of panel discussions, light refreshments, and exchange of ideas. Goes on here. Hold on. Okay, at another session, Matt Carmichael, the manager of external affairs of Anadarko Petroleum, spoke on the topic of understanding how unconventional oil and gas operators are developing a comprehensive media relations strategy to engage stakeholders and educate the public. He said he had several recommendations for the oil industry media professionals at the event, one of which he said involved the military. This is the guy here. Download the U.S. Army/Marine Corps counterinsurgency manual because we are dealing with an insurgency, Carmichael said. There's a lot of good lessons in there, and I, coming from a military background, I found the insight in that extremely remarkable. Now, I'm actually going to skip playing the recording of it for you because it's very hard to hear, but you can look up this video, Anadarko, Chris Watson, Military Psyops, Part 1 on YouTube. Sorry, you might hear my son making ridiculous noises in the background. Okay, so now let's get to some of these interesting comments. Now, some people are noticing that he really doesn't have any emotions about this or anything, especially when they're supposedly missing. Now, this could be just because he's a shitty actor or he's a psychopath, but I'm going to go towards the side that he's just a shitty actor. So this commenter says, maybe he doesn't show the expected emotions because they aren't actually dead. I don't believe anything anymore. There is speculation about this for good reasons, or perhaps they were killed to silence him or for whatever reason. Nothing seems right about any of this, just like he's playing a part. Now, the reason why I believed this was real, okay, the magic worked on me and many others, was because I watched this video that was, of course, recommended to me. Like, oh, hey, Sinead, do you want to watch this video over here? It's totally real because it's from a body cam. It was body cam footage of a police officer who was, going into the house and searching, and Chris Watts' body language is saying that he's guilty, and it all seemed so real, right? Because it was on a body cam, just like this helmet cam from the New Zealand fake Mossad hoax. So these are just ways to give the illusion that, this is so real. I mean, cops couldn't be in on this. And it also, I think this psyop got people to really feel like cops are the only people that we can trust. Your husband could kill you at any time. The guy down the street that everyone thinks is nice and successful could murder his children and stuff them into a little hole in an oil drum, which makes no damn sense. So you just got to trust the police. They're the only ones that are going to help you. I think that's another aspect of this psyop here. Now, this family lived in Colorado. We know there's a lot of military action in Colorado. Let's think back to the Batman shooting at the cinema, Aurora, right? And then we had Columbine, obviously. What else did we have? Now we have this, Denver Airport, a lot of crazy stuff going on there. So there's a ton of military stuff going on in this state. I mean, almost in every state, but Colorado's definitely had their share of psyops. And I believe Columbine was a psyop, by the way. I also believe, I know this from looking at the evidence and the terrible crisis acting, that Aurora was a psyop as well. Now, someone says, I've never seen police handle evidence like they showed in a video, getting the sheet out of the bag and then hanging it on a closet. Yeah, guys, this police officer wouldn't just be able to like go in and start touching the supposed crime scene. They would want to preserve it in case there was an abduction or there's DNA left behind. And a police officer would know the proper protocol, but here he is touching evidence, hanging stuff up. And we'll get into some more of the inconsistencies and things that don't make sense later, but let's read on.
Exactly. There was so much tainted evidence in this case. You have the body cam footage of them in the house just throwing pillows and sheets inside black, normal garbage bags. They're not properly handling evidence. If you've seen the body cam footage, I did a live stream about it. And went over it and played it. The body cam footage of the officers showing up to the forensics laboratory, and you have the other officer there. I believe it's Palencia and Perez. If you guys watch that footage, it's so ridiculous. That body cam footage, it's so ridiculous. You can literally hear Baumhofer on the phone telling Perez to literally take the extra dirt from Survey 319 from the grave site that Shanann was allegedly in, and either wipe it off the table onto the floor or into the trash. I mean, we're talking about a quadruple homicide case here. And this isn't, it's not because it's a cover-up, you know. The psyop is the cover-up. But the majority of people will just see that body cam footage and they'll just say, oh, look at the police officers hanging up the evidence in the evidence lab, but not even think to even question what they're doing with the evidence, how they're handling it. He's wearing gloves, but he's holding and talking to Baumhofer on a disgusting bacteria-ridden cell phone, hangs up with Baumhofer, is still wearing the same gloves, picks up the bag with her underwear and stuff in it, pulls out the underwear, hangs up the sheet in the closet. There's no forensic analyst there, professional, that's actually supposed to be there when the evidence is dropped off to make sure that the evidence is handled properly and that it's not tainted. But the majority of people, like I said, will just believe it because it's on body cam footage. Of course it's real. Why would they show us all this if it wasn't? They're probably going by protocol. Why wouldn't they be, right? The majority of people are not going to go and do research like myself or some other people probably did and know that they're supposed to be, when evidence is being transported to the laboratory, that there's supposed to be a professional there to make sure that evidence is being handled properly. There was no forensics technician there, just two officers. They have no idea what they're doing at all. But again, the majority of people will just believe it because they saw it on video, or because the mainstream media said it's true, or law enforcement said it's true, or because Rourke said it's true. That's really not the case at all. Oh, and not even don't even get me into the letting people walk in and out of the house when it's supposed to be a potential crime scene, right? You have Chris, Nicole Atkinson, Madison, Nicholas Atkinson, news reporters, probably Nick and Amanda Thayer, Nate, who knows, right? We don't know what happened, what's going on when Coonrod or any of the other officers' body cam footage is, off that camera. We have no idea. Who knows what anybody was doing? We only know what we're being shown. So it needs to be, taken with a grain of salt, and especially if there's inconsistencies, there need to be questions, asked. So
on here, he took the sheet out of the bag and then hung it in the closet. It wasn't even done in a crime lab. That is why I think the whole thing is a psychological operation, unless whoever is the one getting all these personal videos from the police cameras is doing this to confuse everyone. Yeah, and this is really interesting, too, that Shanann, because she was part of this whole Thrive thing, which seems like an MLM for vitamin patches or something, she had, hundreds of videos of her on Facebook Live and her children. So, of course, now everyone is obsessively watching these videos and they're so invested in their lives and they feel so connected to this case when it's really all just acting, in my opinion. Okay, let's go on here. They say the house looks like a staged house just for this agenda. I've never seen a case where a man was just thrown in jail for life within such a short period of time. That's another clue. Why was this case just nicely wrapped up with a bow in like a couple weeks or less? That's never how court proceedings happen. They drag on forever. Even if the guy is so obviously guilty, they still have to jump through all the legal hoops and do it all the proper way.
She's right. They really do. I mean, that takes months and months. Even with no trial, you still have to go through the process, the actual court process, and gather the information. And you surely don't stop investigating simply because someone just confesses to a murder, especially when clearly there's many inconsistencies in this guy, Chris Watts, in his statement to police, which we could probably agree on. You know, he doesn't even know how they were strangled, or if they were strangled, if they were smothered, or which tank they were in, or how could he have done this within a certain amount of time. And don't get me started on Nicole Kessinger. Like, you don't just stop investigating because someone pleads guilty, especially when you didn't even bother to do a proper investigation in the first place. And I did talk to a psychiatrist that worked in the Colorado court systems, testifying in the Colorado court systems for 30 years. And before I could even get to asking him about anything conspiratorial, he started asking me questions. I was supposed to be like the interviewee or the interviewer. And he said, a question, because he knew just only a little bit about the case. I think he's probably like in his 80s now. So again, he's had a lot of experience in and out of the testifying in the Colorado courtrooms. But he said, so question was Chris's court hearings, were the court hearings in the county that the murders took place in, or were they in a different county? And I said, well, you know, the murders allegedly took place in Weld County, but Chris's court hearings were actually in Greeley. And he said, oh, yeah, that's highly suspect. And I made a video about this as well, if you guys are interested in checking it out. It hasn't had a lot of views, but it's very informative in my opinion. And this is someone who I interviewed who has no bias whatsoever towards the case. It's not someone that's a professional, coroner or something, but then is literally saying during their interview how they think that NK is guilty. Like, that has a biased opinion, and that's not something that someone that I would, consider reputable, in my opinion. You know, you can't go into these kind of things and find and see all the facts if you have a biased opinion towards any of it. But so I said, no, they were in Greeley. And he's like, yeah, that's interesting, because it sounds like they were trying to they had maybe a judge there, like Cop Cow, that was willing to participate in it. Who knows? But he said it's highly suspect. He also said, before I could get into any conspiratorial questions, that a lot of these, psyop or not, or fake or not, a lot of these smaller counties, especially in Colorado, him working in that system for 30 years, a lot of the smaller counties, especially on the outskirts, they pretty much have, they make up their own laws. They've been corrupt even back then. He said if it took place in Denver, it's highly unlikely that they would be able to get away with it. But considering that it was in a smaller, tiny county like Weld County and Greeley, again, they don't go by the books. They follow their own rules. However, the reason why they can also why they don't have to go by the books in this case, or handle evidence properly, or secure the crime scene properly, or be 100% transparent with us about things, or do anything by the books, is because they can legally lie to us. And I know this is going to sound very, very repetitive, but I have to be. because the Smith Modernization Act of 2012, and again, if you guys are interested in finding out the truth about this case, then go look up the Smith Modernization Act of 2012. Look up videos. There's several videos out there that are going to tell you and inform you that that bill was passed and it allowed the mainstream media and the U.S. government to legally push propaganda and lie to the public. They were doing it before that for many, many years, just illegally. But now they can legally do it without having any repercussions, and we can't get mad about it. We have no say in it. They can legally do it, and we cannot get mad. So whether it be making up a small local story on a news station about a cat wearing a sweater, you know, modeling on the catwalk or something, or an entire quadruple homicide case, and they can legally do it to push propaganda and agendas onto us.
So again, this makes no sense. Show me some crime scene pictures, no matter how graphic, then I might believe something. Well, they won't. Okay, then someone says, I can't find Chris Watts in the prison database. Another person says, sounds about right. None of this made sense. Cramming dead kids into an 8-inch hole. I don't know, man. This just seems outrageous to me. Again, and Anthony brought this up. So thank you, Anthony. Why would he take the time to, like, dismember these bodies and put them into an 8-inch hole? Now, the official story is so they're
Sorry, I just wanted to stop that and mention that that's obviously disinformation. They were not, what's the word she just used? I can't even think right now, but whatever she just said, that's not the case. We know that. Dismembered. Okay, here we go.
Decomposing bodies wouldn't smell. Well, then why the hell did you bury your pregnant wife over in like a ditch or like in a very shallow grave that a drone found? Ooh, drone saved the day. It's just insulting now, and I can't believe I for a minute believed it. I feel freaking retarded. But it just shows you guys their little magic tricks are everywhere and they're nonstop. Like the majority of the news stories we get are made up. And not only are they made up, they're serving an agenda, a sinister one that does not have our well-being in mind whatsoever. Okay, moving on here. If you have ever noticed in these psyops, many of the people you can never find real info on, just like the Bundy case. They have the public believe they are moved to all these private prisons, and yet sometimes you can't find them in the system. Sometimes pictures don't seem to quite look like the same people. Moving on. Someone also mentions that there are no Facebook accounts for the people in question, only Shanann Watts, no Cindy Watts, etc. And I just find that kind of rare because in this day and age, I mean, like my parents have Facebooks. They're rarely on them, but most people are going to have a Facebook presence. Most people that aren't like us because we're cut off and banned from social media. But I mean, you'd think that at least somebody else in their family would, but no, it's just Shanann, which I find weird. Now, the media reported that Chris Watts was hired at Anadarko. That's the oil company that's interested in psyops against anti-frackers. Yeah, that one. They said that he was hired at Anadarko only 6 months ago. However, that is a lie. The oldest pay stub found by investigators shows he was at the company since at least 2015. By separating him from Anadarko by several years, the media is attempting to downplay how deep his involvement with Anadarko really goes. Anadarko. It's just an interesting name here. Like, keep people in the dark with their psyops, Anadarko. That would also dispel the money problem that the money problem drove him to kill. Also, the bankruptcy stems back 4 years, and she had a good-paying job. I still stand by my theory, which had nothing to do with money or infidelity. I don't know. I guess that person's still assuming this is real. Don't buy the having money problems based on previous bankruptcy unless something more concrete shows, as she frequently talked about the money she was making even in the perks from the levels, I guess that's the multi-level marketing thing, Thrive product sales. Bankruptcy would actually give them relief and a redo. On one, she said, was $800 a month, much like a car allowance that had been making her car payment, insurance, and taxes, plus had extra from it. Okay, whatever. Okay, yeah, so he had apparently worked there for 6 months, but they filed for bankruptcy in 2015. However, they built a $400,000 house. I mean, if you see the house in these videos, it's freaking huge, like unnecessarily big for a family of, well, 3 children. One was on the way, supposedly, and 2 adults. I mean, it's ridiculously huge. And it didn't even look lived in my opinion. I know there are some people that keep their house very minimal and but I mean, you have 2 young girls living there. There should be toys everywhere, and it just seemed way too spick and span, in my opinion. Okay. So yeah, how did they build this $400,000 house if they were supposedly filing for bankruptcy? Someone says, I think they got the house in 2013. It was said that Shanann's mother co-signed the loan. Yeah, we'll see. Okay. I also think it's really convenient, too, that Nicole, the mistress of Chris Watts, is now in a witness protection program. So, no one can actually ask any questions about this. And Chris Watts is on suicide watch, so I wouldn't be surprised if he, quote unquote, kills himself. And then this whole case is just forgotten about and no one looks into it any further. But it still stays with people as real. Another person mentions how they cannot find Chris Watts in the prison database. Now, some people say there is a link where you can click to send him money, but that doesn't actually, if you look him up in the prison population, he does not come up. That supposedly happens with a lot of these fake criminals. Okay, now this is a good comment from Purdy Girl. I swear today I have finally had my faith renewed in people thanks to your comment. I felt so alone with my questioning of the authenticity of this whole reality miniseries 2019 version of the Blair Witch Project. And people are taking and accepting obvious discrepancies and blatant deceit as truth. My friend was murdered in July in a love triangle. The other man stalked and shot him and shot himself. Both dead men's phones took months of legal hoops and injunctions to unlock. Yeah, exactly. But all of a sudden, we've got all these phone records, all this private stuff coming out, within hours, days of this whole thing. That's not how it works in a real court proceeding.
She's right. It's not real life. It didn't come out within hours and days, but I think she's being a little bit sarcastic or over-exaggerating. But, pretty much what she's saying is that everything happens so quickly when you literally have to, go through all the legal hoops and go through the process of everything. So 3 months to have this case, a quadruple homicide case, open and closed, trial or no trial, is extremely fast. And we didn't even get all of the text messages, because they made up that bullshit excuse, like I brought up in my last live stream, that they didn't have the technology, they didn't possess the technology to perform physical extractions on iPhones. So they made up some excuse as to why they couldn't provide Nicole Kessinger's text or recover Nicole Kessinger's deleted text messages. Why would they do that? They wouldn't lie because it's a cover up. They would lie and make up that excuse so they wouldn't have to provide that information, because they don't have to do all that to convince the majority of people that this case actually happened. And not only that, but by not providing it, it leads back to the true crime community, where this seems to only be a popular thing is on social media. Because again, the mainstream media is not talking about it. Nobody else is talking about it outside of this. Maybe after seeing the Netflix documentary and with side conversation, but for the most part, it's mainly on social media, where it's so, the fascination with it is on social media in the true crime community. So by doing that, what have we been doing for almost 3 years now? Trying to figure out if Nicole Kessinger is guilty, not guilty. Did she have a hand in it? She actually kill the children, or Shanann, or whatever, or was she just simply a mistress, or did she do it psychologically to convince Chris? Based off the official narrative and the true crime community theories, not mine. I don't believe that. I think I believe that the only thing Nicole Kessinger, or one of the only things she's guilty of, is lying to the public and being a part of this whole operation. She played her role. That's what she did. That's why she's disappeared off the face of the earth. Because by coming out and her doing interviews, that would answer a lot of the questions that the people on social media have, or in the true crime community, right? If she came out and explained her story, or her side of the story, and said, look, I'm innocent, and she gave a public statement or a public apology or whatever, wrote a book, went on Dr. Phil, whatever, that would answer a lot of questions, right? But she's not doing that. Just like Mary Lou Danley from the Las Vegas shooting, same thing. People wondered where the hell she went, why she disappeared, why she fell off the face of the earth, why you couldn't find any digital footprint of her anywhere. She only had a little bit of pictures of social media. Nobody ever came out and said that they knew her, dated her, was a family member, nothing. Same thing with Nicole Kessinger. So that's the kind of patterns that I'm trying to look out for. These same things that are happening over and over again, because they, for the most part, follow the same itinerary and the same patterns. Hence, the name Lee means organic pattern. Go figure. With all the name Lee in the case, and not only that, but with the several different variations, like Lee, Li, and Lie, which is also the English word for lie, because they're letting us know to our faces, and they're admitting that the entire thing is a lie. Because of their whole karma thing that I talk about a lot, right? It's literally in plain sight, and the majority of people have no idea that they are being duped. And just like Sinead said a little bit ago, even she was duped. Hell, even I was duped for a while. I didn't just know right off the bat that this case was not what it was, right? That it was a psyop. But that's because I didn't even think to go there with true crime. I had, like she even said, I had my suspicions about Madeleine McCann and John Bonet, but I never delved down those rabbit holes. Could be that too. Rabbit holes. Because I was concentrating more on, school shootings, terrorist attacks, and those types of tragic events that were pushing agendas. I had no idea that they were doing this in the true crime community until I just by chance happened to fall, this Watts case, fall into my lap, right? So again, it wasn't right off the bat, but I started to notice the same inconsistencies and the same characteristics that I did in the Las Vegas shooting. Specifically, I mean, the comparison between the two is crazy, even though they're both tragic events, but two totally different. One mass shooting, one a homicide case, family homicide case, familicide, whatever you want to call it. But I just started to see the same characteristics. So the amount of information that was released in both, and mind you, they both have inconsistencies and the red flags and discrepancies in their narrative. So it's not like I'm questioning the ones that add up. That would be ridiculous. Why would I question ones that added up and all made sense and fit together? I'm only questioning the ones that don't, and the ones that I'm seeing the same inconsistencies in. So again, the amount of information released in both events, body cam footage in both, the girlfriends both disappearing, 911 calls being released, lack of redacting in the FIT report from the LVMPD, and no redactions hardly in the Watts case. Like 99% of this discovery, no one's personal information was protected at all. That's insane. That's one of the biggest, if not the biggest, red flags in this case, that no one's personal information was protected. Because if they did what they were supposed to do and they redacted, Nicole Atkinson's information or Troy McCoy's information or Chad McNeil, you name it. What would people in the true crime community have to investigate? What rabbit holes would we have to go down and look into the backgrounds, or of Jimbo, right? Or of Nicole Kessinger? How could I forget her? If they did what they were supposed to do and protected the personal information of parties involved in this case, the true crime community would have nothing to go off of. But that's all part of the psyop. That's how they pull people in. That's why Shanann's Facebook account was left open to the public, even though the family contradicts themselves and says, stop talking about the case. Well, then how about you take down your daughter's Facebook account so you can stop with the pulling at the heartstrings, and also not only that, but giving Thrive and Lavelle huge publicity in this entire case. So there's a reason why Shanann's Facebook account was left open, so that people would bury their heads in her social media account, watch her videos over and over again. So whether they were doing it to be, investigators like people do in true crime, or whether it be because they were infatuated by Shanann and her beauty and how she, lit up a room, she was a perfect pick for this case. I'm not going to lie. She did. She was. So there's multiple reasons for keeping Shanann's Facebook account open, as I just mentioned. Cut, take, moving on. Okay, here we go.
Okay. Sorry, I lost my place. So, yes, they had to go through a bunch of hoops and injunctions to unlock the phones, and since there was no trial, that evidence is not public record. And with the Nicole, the mistress, love that the amateur detective housewives nicknamed her. Oh, NK, that's what they're calling her. Her involvement in this in real life would still be an ongoing investigation to see how much she knew. Exactly. Why have they already ruled this lady out? You would assume that this guy had an accomplice, possibly his mistress, who knew that he was married, and we're all believing this is real for the moment. So if he killed his pregnant wife and 2 daughters, you think maybe the mistress wouldn't be in on it too. But no, she's been cleared. It's all good. She's in the witness protection program now, okay? This is a scripted reality show, and they apparently used Tommy Wiseau to write and direct. I don't know where she's getting that from, but okay. The Facebook lives of shenanigan, meaning to dupe, were cringeworthy, cliche dialogue, improvised acting, with each one providing a clue. When she would pretend to be addressing her live audience, I could barely...
Sorry, I just wanted to mention something. Shenanigans, meaning to dupe. So again, they let us with this symbolism and their code words and their play on words, multiple meanings behind the names like Lee, Nicole, Nicholas, meaning to conquer the people. Nicholas, look it up. The word, the name means to literally conquer the people, victory over the people, because that's what they're trying to do with these orchestrated events, you guys. They're trying to conquer us, to control us, whether it be with fear, to take away rights. And it might sound crazy if you're new to my channel, but just hear me out, at least. Please. Because again, if people really do want the truth about this case, then they need to look at it from a different perspective and hear everybody out, even myself, even if it goes against their beliefs for the past 3 years, something that they believed, try to put your emotions aside, your beliefs aside, and hear other people out. Like, I'm not here, I don't have anything to gain by claiming that this, I don't have anything to gain by spending almost 3 years of my life dedicated to this case, pretty much, to what do I have to gain? My channel's not monetized. It never has been. I'm not telling you to come to Patreon to hear breaking news about this case and say, oh, I can't talk about it because I'm censored, so come to my Patreon and pay $5 a month. It's not what I'm doing. So if anybody tries to accuse me of that and say that I'm milking this case or whatever, then they're full of shit. Granted, in my chats, I do say, hey, if you want a donation, then great. If not, that's not why I'm here. But I do spend a lot of my time and have spent a lot of my time researching, and I delved into that discovery just as much as anybody else did. I mean, I went through that discovery with a, fine-tooth comb. So it's not like I just said, oh, yep, the whole thing's fake. It's a psyop. Not even going to even look into the discovery. I don't need to. That's not true. That's really not the case. And my videos in the past that I have uploaded prove that. I just wanted to let you guys know that. If you are new to my channel, it's not like I'm just basing off my theory or have come to the conclusion based off of just one thing or just a couple. There's many, many, many reasons. And again, there's, in my opinion, there's more than enough evidence that I have pointed out to support my theory. I don't know where I was going with that, but let's continue. Oh, I remember. So she says shenanigans. See what happens? She says shenanigans, which means to dupe. In the Summer Wells case, there's so much occult symbolism and that's going on in that case. It's looking at like it's going to be the new Chris Watts case, the new psyop case. But there's one of the officers in that case, and I mentioned it on DLive and in one of my live streams that I did Summer Wells on, or covered Summer Wells. One of the officers' names that gives, talks in one of the press conferences, or news conferences, his last name is Coop. Look up the definition of Coop. C-O-U-P. Same thing with the shenanigans, to dupe. They're telling us pretty much in plain sight and admitting to us that these events are not real. And it's as crazy as it sounds, the proof is in the patterns, or at least I hope it is. I'm hoping that their symbolism will be their downfall as well, but we'll see.
I really watched due to how obvious it was that she was doing a scene. Oh, everyone's obsessed with I watched a bunch of them. I got totally captivated by this fake case because it was like all over YouTube. Oh, I'll watch that. I'm such a dumbass sometimes. See you guys, none of us are perfect. It was as fake as actors drinking coffee out of an empty cup. How about the nosy BFF? This is a good point that she brings up because this was in the body cam footage that I watched. Her friend, no one has a friend that's this much into our personal lives, okay? So let me get into this best friend that was so worried about shenanigan. All right, so how about the nosy best friend? The friend we all wish we had, who calls the cops if we don't answer her 7:30 a.m. text after getting home from a long trip at 2:30 and missing a 9 a.m. doctor's appointment that maybe we rescheduled, and all our best friends forever, of course, have the name and numbers of our doctors. Yeah, the whole thing started that the best friend was concerned because Shanann didn't respond to a 7:30 a.m. text, even though she got home at 2:30 a.m. Okay, what friend? I have, some pretty good friends, but they don't know. Oh, I don't go to a doctor, but they don't know numbers to call if I don't. Why would they be concerned if I didn't text them back at 7:30? Oh, and then apparently she calls the doctor. By the way, it's against the law for a doctor's office to give out any info about a patient, even when they missed an appointment. And this best friend forever can see through blacked out windows in a garage also. And she has a key to the house. How convenient. The cherry on top, the cop lets her and another neighbor come along into the house with him to investigate a missing person and children situation, knowing that one possibility is dead victims. Yeah, so again, the way that this was handled by the supposed cop, it's never handled like this in a real case. Cop talking, hey, come on in, see what you can find, and make sure you pick up anything you find and question the husband, who quite possibly could be involved, about any evidence you find. We're a little low on officers these days. We like to round up neighbors and friends to help with investigations. I can go on for days about this and why it's a hoax, but I'm now getting my dose of the brain dead masses comments with the Netflix mockumentary called Abducted in Plain Sight. I gotta watch this. I've actually been watching the Madeleine McCann one, and it's so... Oh, God, it's so disgusting how they're trying to paint the parents as, innocent. So what that we had our children alone in an apartment while we're, 5 minutes away down the street? It's basically like eating in your backyard. Oh, those guys are creepy. I'll do another show on Madeleine McCann.
So I just want to comment about what she said about Nicole Atkinson showing up. We get it, right? How many times did they tell us that Shanann, that was her lifeline? How many times did we hear Chris say it? How many times did we hear Nicole Atkinson say it? It was, I think even Nicole Kessinger even mentions it to Kobach. And it's like, oh yeah, that was her lifeline. She was always on her phone. That was one of the problems they had in their marriage or whatever. Regardless if that's her lifeline, let's think about it. Shanann's based on the official narrative, Shanann's pregnant. They were just in Arizona. She's having trouble in her marriage. She's not feeling well because of the pregnancy or whatever. She wasn't eating. She just got off of a plane, just got dropped off just a few hours before that. We're talking, a few hours here, you guys. Maybe she was just tired. Maybe she was, a little depressed. You normally have to, and it might vary from state to state, but you usually have to have a legitimate feeling or reason to even call the police and call in a welfare check. You have to be pretty certain, maybe you haven't heard it from them in days, right? You hear them, you talk to them every day, but it's gone like 1 day or 2 days. So now you're really worried. They're not answering the door. Then you call police. But you're talking like 5 hours here, or, a span of a few hours. So usually, as far as I know, again, it might vary from state to state, they're not going to take the time to, especially when Nicole Atkinson says that she was upset about their marriage and that I can't even talk, that she did just get off of a flight and was dropped off at 2 a.m. that morning, or roughly, right? They're going to go, okay, well, if she doesn't answer her phone, and maybe in a few hours from now, then, and if you're really that worried about her, call us back. But she, it's not a legitimate enough reason, I guess, in my opinion, it's not, to call in a welfare check. And to me, I would feel like that the police station or law enforcement would be like, we're not going to want to, take the time to go and do that unless they're simply bored. But do you guys have the Citizen app? I'm not looking at the chat, but I'm just going to ask you. There's an app called Citizen, and it will give you notifications of your surrounding area. If there's some sort of break-in in your neighborhood, if there's a robbery at the local Circle K or down the street from your house, if just recently they started doing people's pets being missing. Well, now I'm getting notifications on my phone for not senior alerts, but silver alerts, amber alerts, and also just in the past couple of days, I've got notifications that have said, hey, have you seen this child? They're wearing this and this. They went missing at, let's say I got the notification at 2. They went missing at 1:30 p.m. They're wearing no shoes and a pink shirt and shorts, right? A little girl. They're not going to send out a search party every single time a child goes missing. See what I'm saying? Or every single time some friend doesn't answer her phone for a couple hours. Because it happens all the time. Parents turn around and their kids go missing, but then they end up finding them in their playroom or something when they were supposed to be in the kitchen or whatever. They went, they're not going to, that would be insane if they literally showed up after if someone called every single time a child went missing or a friend didn't answer her phone for a couple hours because she, God forbid, just got off of a flight and is pregnant and maybe tired, regardless of the situation. See what I'm saying?
Okay. That one, instead of just being a true life drama series, is filled with doubled over, holding your stomach laughable true accounts of the 11-year-old daughter's 4 kidnappings by the family friend, lover, vacation planner, slumber party guest, sex education teacher, handyman, who convinces the parents he should sleep 4 nights a week naked in the 11-year-old's bed for therapy, before kidnapping the 11-year-old for the first time. If you haven't seen it, you are in for a treat. It sounds like such bullshit. I'll have to check it out for you guys. Okay. I think this reality show / miniseries was released at the same time as Abducted in Plain Sight with a few agendas. But the one common with these two is to make people untrusting of everyone. Yes. Untrusting of your spouse, neighbors, parents, coworkers, etc. Be suspicious of everyone. Be fearful of kind behavior. That way we are forever divided. Plus, in both cases, movies, the only good guys are the police. Without them, we aren't safe, which we know is not always the case. I would say.
Exactly. I agree, because I can see it happening with these other cases, right? So, again, don't trust the all-around American husband like Chris Watts who wouldn't hurt a fly. Now, a lot of women out there, and I've seen it, I've seen comments, I've seen many, many comments from women saying, I don't even feel comfortable around my husband. I don't even know if I can trust my husband now. Like, whether they are really mean it, they're still subconsciously, if they're commenting about it, they're probably thinking about it, right? Like, I don't even know if I can. And we're talking about someone that you trust with your life, you married to protect you and your family, your children, like with your life, right? So again, if someone like Chris Watts can up and murder his family one day for not an actual definitive motive, like, or for some chick that he knew for 2 months, right? If someone like him can murder his entire family, then what's stopping the same thing from your, or what's stopping your significant other, or even, or your close family member that you trust for years because of your close family member, or your father from doing it, that never laid a hand on you. It doesn't matter who it is. But now look at the Aiden Fucci and Tristan Bailey case. They want us to believe that this 14-year-old boy, right, scrawny little kid, stabbed Tristan Bailey 114 times. He was already arrested within, what, like 48 hours? Or he was arrested, a day later. Then he was in court within 48 hours, and he was already being accused of murder simply because he confessed. Like, as she mentioned earlier, it takes a long time for the court process to go through these. So how is it that he was already being charged with first degree murder when they haven't even probably finished the freaking autopsies yet? And then, of course, the whole courtroom with Aiden Fucci, his face right in the camera, it's all documented, right? To really pull at heartstrings and push that psychological bullshit on people. So now there's probably a lot of mothers out there that think, oh my God, can my scrawny little 14-year-old innocent boy, can he possibly do the same thing to me or one of his girlfriends or one of his classmates or students? So, who's next? Like, and you have those, I can't remember the Gannon Stout, whatever case. You have these women, these young women killing their kids that are like barely even in their 20s or whatever. So now it's like, okay, can my 20-year-old daughter, is she going to kill her own kid? Is she going to kill me? It's all about inducing fear. They want us to be scared all the time. They want us to constantly just be divided. They don't want us to be trusting. And like Sinead said, they want us to think that the only people that we can trust is the government and law enforcement. And that's just simply not the case.
It's most likely not ever the case. There are ZOG officers. I'm sure there are good ones that do good little deeds every day, but like they're working for ZOG. Yes, without them we aren't safe though. And should be looked at more suspiciously than the handsome possible murdering neighbor and dad. Yeah, I'd say the cops should be looked at more suspiciously than your random neighbor. Okay. Going on. Someone says the doc number is fake. Go to Wisconsin Department of Corrections inmate search and put in the number. It will come up no offender found. Shocking. Why Wisconsin? Oh, maybe that's the town. Okay. Also, when Chris Watts was arrested in the video on YouTube, the officer did not read him his Miranda rights. All those videos, no Miranda. There's something seriously wrong with this whole thing. And just look at how I myself didn't ask these questions. I think it's because I don't really know what the process is when someone's arrested. But think about everybody that fell for that. No one even thought for a second, like, hey, wait a second, this guy isn't getting his proper, rights read to him and, standard procedures, because that's all going to go away pretty soon. It's just going to be like kangaroo courts. You've been accused of terrorism. Come with us. You're going to the gulag. No court proceedings, no investigation. Just within a week, you're in jail for life or you're dead. They want us getting used to this. I think there are many different reasons for these psyops. And the more reasons they can cover in one of these operations, the better. It's not like they're just targeting one thing. They're like, all right, let's see how many people we can screw up with this one. And you have Anadarko literally saying, we are interested in counterinsurgency psyops. And Chris works for Anadarko in a pretty high capacity.
Okay, so I want to pause it there, and I want to, again, I know this is going to be a video that you guys, many of you have seen already, but I think it does have, I haven't been able to exactly, put my finger on it exactly what the reason behind it is, but I know that there's something big about this Proposition 112 that was going on, and the military psyop-like tactics. I don't want to say that they're actually I'm not saying that the military is using psyops against us, or I'm saying that these bigwigs at these oil companies, like Sinead said, are using military-like psyop tactics on the public to sway opinions and to push propaganda onto the public as well as local citizens and anti-frackers. So let me pull that up real quick. Okay, crisis. Yeah, and speaking of conspiracies, Ara, the whole conspiracy theorist thing, it's just an ad hominem to make to discredit people who actually think critically, who ask questions, think logically, and don't believe everything everything that they hear. So it's just, again, it's an ad hominem to discredit people who think for themselves, pretty much. So, call me conspiracy theorist all you want. I don't care. At least I know that, I can think for myself, as cheesy as that sounds, and I don't believe everything that I'm told simply because I'm told it. Especially when shit doesn't add up. Yeah, I don't think, Anthony, you're not the actual Anthony. Are you the actual Anthony on there? Because if you are, that would be pretty crazy. But I think it's just a coincidence. I think you were kidding, right, Anthony? And like Sinead was saying earlier, it's like she even admitted that she was duped by this case, by the Watts case. Just, and like I mentioned earlier as well, that I also was. There's nothing wrong with admitting that you were duped, but there's a lot of people out there that will have that cognitive dissonance. Last thing they want to do is know that they are, admit is that they were duped, let alone, or know that they were duped, let alone admit to anybody that they were indeed duped. So they'll make up every excuse in the book as to why their beliefs are true, and anything else anybody is saying that contradict or go against their beliefs is not. Okay, here we go. And I apologize if you guys have seen this already, but again, it's important, so. Sorry, I just want to mention real quick that this was the same year that Smith-Mundt Modernization Act of 2012 was passed, where they could legally, the mainstream media, U.S. government, whoever, can legally push propaganda and lie to the public. And now we have, these bigwigs at Anadarko and these other that you'll see in the video, these other oil and gas companies that are literally admitting, because like it said in the video, this woman who was a media person, she paid to go into the conference, but she recorded the conference, without anybody knowing. So had she not done that, we probably wouldn't know about this.
So, again, this is all industry stuff. Let's talk about this plan and how we executed our media plan. If you're a PR representative in this industry, in this room today, I recommend you do three things. These are three things that I've read recently that are pretty interesting to me. Download the U.S. Army/Marine Corps Counterinsurgency Manual, because we are dealing with an insurgency. There's a lot of good lessons in there, and coming from a military background, I've found the insight in that extremely remarkable. With that said, there's a course provided by Harvard and MIT twice a year. It's called Dealing with an Angry Public. Take that course. And the tie back to the Army and Marine Corps Counterinsurgency Manual is that a lot of the officers in our military are attending this course. It gives you the tools, it gives you the media tools on how to deal with a lot of the controversy that we as an industry are dealing with. And thirdly, I have a copy of Rumsfeld Rules. If you're all familiar with Donald Rumsfeld, that's kind of my Bible by the way I operate.
Sorry, I'll turn on the volume too. That music's kind of loud. I don't normally use dramatic music, but I felt it fitting for this video, especially since I wasn't speaking in it. So I will read this because I don't think I left the screenshots up long enough. So this was taken directly out of the counterinsurgency manual that Matt Carmichael mentioned just a moment ago. So it says the mission of PSYOP is to influence the behavior of foreign. Of course, I crossed out foreign because usually with psychological operations, they're used the military uses them against foreign insurgencies, right? So, but let's forget about the foreign part because they're admitting to literally using it on American soil. These PSYOP-like tactics from this counterinsurgency manual. Okay. The mission of PSYOP is to influence the behavior of target audiences to support U.S. national objectives. PSYOP accomplishes this by conveying selected information and advising on actions that influence the emotions, motives, objective reasoning, and ultimately the behavior of audiences. Behavioral change is at the root of the PSYOP mission, although concerned with the mental processes of the target audience. It is the observable modification of target audience behavior that determines the mission success of PSYOP. Of PSYOPs. I'm not saying of PSYOPs, but of PSYOPs. Okay.
Knows this. We've talked a lot about it. One thing that we've worked a lot on at Range is just getting more proactive in the community. It's not something that we've done before. In other parts of the nation, it makes no sense for us to do that. In other parts, in Pennsylvania, for instance, we have several. I think Matt raised the issue of looking to other industries, in this case, the Army and the Marines. We have several former PSYOPs folks that work for us at Range because they're very comfortable in dealing with localized issues in local governments.
Really all they do is spend most of their time helping folks develop local ordinances and things like that, but very much having that understanding of psyops in the Army and in the Middle East has applied very helpfully here for us in Pennsylvania.
Okay, so it says, selling oil and gas lease rights. The source of the document was never identified, so its authenticity is not confirmed. However, the manipulative techniques mentioned in the binder are consistent with psyop tactics. So what this part of the article is referring to is them literally dropping off binders of like pretty much propaganda in order to sway opinions of anti-frackers or people in the community. It says the focal point of the well-run psyops campaign is to reward those who go along with the mission and punish those who do not. Other winning hearts and minds psyop-like tactics include industry sponsorship of county fairs, sponsorship of child domestic abuse centers, and donating money to other community projects. And I could be wrong. This is just a I can't even think. Why do I do these late night streams? What I'm trying to say is, when I read that, I thought of Lavelle. Because to me, with as much publicity as Lavelle got in this case, the free publicity, so much of it, it's overwhelming. I feel like that's one of those companies that are, a part of it and are going along with the mission. Therefore, they're being rewarded by getting a ton of free publicity. And again, I could be wrong, but that's the sense that I got from, that's what I thought of when I read this out of the counterinsurgency manual. Here we go.
Fracking comes to a city, it puts our health and safety at risk. With over 1,200 peer-reviewed research articles, the increased risk of asthma, birth defects, and cancer are well documented. In Colorado, fracking wells can be drilled within 500 feet of homes and 1,000 feet from school buildings. Aside from the health issues, these wells are loud, unsightly, and dangerous. Let's keep our neighborhoods safe and increase the buffer zone to 2,500 feet. Vote yes on Proposition 112 for safer setbacks from fracking. Donate now at coloradorising.org.
Here is what Proposition 112 would do to the already limited surface locations in Colorado. All of the red-shaded areas are now off-limits from future drilling, just from the 2,500-foot town and housing development setbacks. Here you can see the effect of increasing the house and occupied structure setback to Proposition 112 standard. As you can see, a 2,500-foot setback for every house virtually takes away all available surface locations in the region. Streams, rivers, lakes, wetlands, and now even drainages, which is a very general term, will have 2,500-foot setbacks. Even if an area is not heavily populated, drainages and areas deemed vulnerable by Proposition 112 will virtually ban the majority of future drilling locations throughout the state. All of the additional current regulatory setbacks will also still be in place. As you can see, no drillable surface locations exist on the map, meaning that the private property and rights of mineral owners have effectively been taken away without compensation.
Okay, I just want to read that in case it's hard to see. Again, I don't know like if there's anything going on in the chat, but we're all here for the same reason, and I know that the majority of you in my chat are always respectable. Let's all just have our opinions and keep it civil, regardless of gatekeepers or controlled opposition or whatever. That's again, not to be all dramatic, but that's what they want. They want us to always be divided, because we're stronger if we work together, and they know that. So that's what they're always trying to divide us for. So anyways, not very good at mediating, but okay, so it says Colorado election results. Oil and gas companies, including Anadarko and Noble Energy, poured millions into the political interest group Protect Colorado. Through mailers, door-to-door visits, and TV ads, the group trumpeted the industry's economic success and raised concerns about what would be lost if companies faced new restrictions. Okay, so just wanted you to see that, because it just shows how much effort they put into it, and how much more campaign funds that they had compared to the anti-fracker organizations. Okay, it says Colorado Rising spent about $819,000. Donations came mostly from individuals and several environmental advocacy groups and liberal philanthropy organizations. We overcame tens of millions in oil and gas spending at a 40-to-1 ratio, and lots of deceit and dirty tricks to come closer than was ever imagined. Read a statement issued by Colorado Rising. This is momentum that we will continue to build upon to protect our communities from a dangerous and belligerent industry. So, what are the odds that this, Proposition 112 finally got on the ballot at the same time that Chris Watts was, you'll see at the end of this video, but I just want to mention it now, that the official narrative tells us that Chris Watts was actually planning the murders of his family, and it comes just in time for Election Day. And not only that, but guess who got not voted in, but whatever, to be another term? Michael Rourke. So he also benefits from it, which is another red flag to look out for. If any of these events, that have these red flags, happen to be around an election or something, look at a certain politician or certain politicians who are going to benefit from this, from a distraction or for whatever reason from these orchestrated events, because it seems to be a pattern with that as well. so this one's definitely hard to read because it's pretty blurry, but this is taken directly out of the discovery, and I found this interesting, so I added this to the video. It says the director of Primrose asked Karen if she knew the Watts were selling their house. The only thing that Karen knew was that Shanann mentioned that Chris had an inside heads up that an oil and gas site was coming across from their house and it would drop their property value. There was no plan in place to actually move or sell. There was nothing impending, but they did not actually finish the conversation on 8/12/2018 in Arizona. So I just found that interesting that they mentioned how there was going to be a new well coming to that vicinity, or that would be inserted there. So best worst streamer ever. No. Okay. Okay, so these are the red flags that I talk about and the characteristics that I talk about all the time during my live streams. That you're gonna want to look out for. Now, they're not gonna have, not every single psyop or orchestrated event is going to have every single one of these, but for the most part, these are what you need to look out for in these, in the future for these orchestrated events. And that's how you're going to be able to spot them, just like I did, just like Shanae did, just like Anthony did, and several other people, right? Now, they're not going to have the same characteristics in every single one because they're all different, whether it be a school shooting, a mass shooting, a terrorist attack, a homicide case, a missing persons case like Summer Wells. So just because, for instance, if let's say that there's no trial, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's orchestrated, but that's one of the red flags. So if you start seeing that, there's no crime scene photos, there's lack of evidence tampering, FBI, CIA involvement, even though it's just not a federal case, it's just a local case or whatever, that's when you're going to want to take a step back and try to put your emotions aside. If you are emotionally affected by these tragic events, try to push your emotions aside, take a step back, and look at what's going on from a different perspective. And think, hey, these are the red flags that Megan's been telling me about for, a couple of years now. So maybe I need to start looking at it from a different perspective. Right? Or maybe in the next one, maybe the killer does fit the profile. So if they don't, if they do fit the profile, that doesn't mean that it's not a psyop or it's not orchestrated, because it's going to have the characteristics that cater to that specific event. But for the most part, they do follow the same itinerary in these, hoaxes. Okay, so let's continue with the podcast.
And it looks like he was in one of those kind of cushy jobs that someone that maybe served a couple tours overseas in the military would come back to afterwards. Now, I can't find any... Look, is Chris Watts even a real person? Again, right? I couldn't find anything on Chris Watts, the character, being in the military, but are these people even real? Yes, they might be real flesh and blood human beings, but Are those their names? Did the girls ever die? I don't think so. I really don't. Now, this isn't to say that like murders don't happen every day. They do. Oh, they do. I live around a lot of crazy stuff. But is it on national news like this? No, it's not. So, all right. Let's read more. All right, Lydia brings up something here. I have done some extensive research into this. Also, the connections to the Ring doorbell security systems and Richard Branson being the founder, if the security camera device is extensively discussed throughout all the media coverage. I don't know what she means by that. I think I understand what she's saying, but she worded it really weird. I believe the deep state or government is tied to this, and it's a psyop as well, and I have factual info to back up my claim. I am also in the legal field too, and this was not done by the book in any way. I also find it interesting the victim, Shanann, happens to chronicle her life on Facebook. Maybe she meant book. I believe this was deliberate to help create the following this case has had. Plus, you can't find a thing on Nicole. That was the mistress. These are just surface things I am mentioning. I have concrete research to back it up. I hope she comes out with some videos, because I'd be interested to hear more. Okay. Now, this one I tried to verify, but I couldn't find my headphones, so I didn't find it. But if anyone wants to verify this for me, I'd appreciate it. Someone says, all right, in the video, when the officer goes into the house and starts to walk up the stairs, he taps in cam for permission to enter the house. I don't know what that means. You hear nothing. He gets to the top of the stairs, and Chris Watts says, I phoned Shanann Watts' phone, and the officer must have looked at him bad because it wasn't time for that line. So I did hear that part. The officer covers his body cam with his hand. Then he starts walking up the stairs, and Chris Watts, the actor, goes, I tried calling her phone, and the cop goes, oh, kind of like, we're not supposed to say that line yet. And then they like talk about something else and then come back to it later.
Yeah, that was one of the weirder moments in the case where, as Sinead mentions that Conrad comes up the stairs and Chris is like, oh, I found her phone. And Conrad says, oh, well, shoot. And then just walks past it like, did you fudge the lines there? Was that not the time? You would think that a police officer would be pretty interested in knowing that her phone, that she was her lifeline, right? That they mentioned. Probably be a pretty significant piece of evidence. But nope, he just keeps walking by. He's like, oh, well, shoot. Very strange.
So, yeah, he passes him and shouts, oh, looked around, comes back out, passes Chris and Shanann Watts' phone, goes to the next room, looks around, comes out. And then the boy in the red shirt, he's not really a boy, he's like a young man, the guy with the ponytail, shouts action. His mom comes into the scene. Only then is it time for the phone. So then the phone comes into play. Chris Watts and the rest of them are actors. As soon as you see that, your eyes are open to more. This is evil because they make money on this. Even on YouTube, they are taking people's money with all what they are saying. One word, psyop. Yes. I couldn't hear the action, but I did hear the weird, like, flubbing of the line. You could tell. It's like during a play and the actor says the wrong line. You're like, okay, you freaking idiot. You weren't supposed to say that yet. And then he just like kind of diverts, goes and looks around a room. And now I don't know too much about legal proceedings, but like, wouldn't they have to have a warrant to search? I mean, I don't really know how it works. In a missing persons case, it might be different because the family is like, come on in, please try and help us find anything. But you'd think that they would have more police come and some forensics people come to start, swabbing for fingerprints and looking for DNA, or they would bring Chris Watts down for questioning. They wouldn't just like be in the house. It was all very strange. Someone says here, I wonder if this is a psyop because for some reason it's not triggering any emotion for me. A pregnant woman and 2 young children were supposedly murdered and I barely shed a tear. I figured maybe because I didn't know them that I couldn't really connect to what happened. But then I watched a documentary about Amina and Sarah Said, who were teenage girls murdered by their fathers, and I cried my eyes out. I think my intuition can tell when something is real versus fake, and that's why I have no emotional response to the Chris Watts case. Only curiosity because of so many things that don't add up and are clearly being hidden. Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, I think most of us on a deep level, whether that be subconscious, we're not even really aware of it, or just an inner knowing, we can tell when something is fake. But then our logical mind comes in and says, no, why would it be fake? This is all over YouTube. Durr. I mean, just like I did. This stuff is amazing how it works. It's hard for us because most of us can't put ourselves in the shoes of these people that are lying to us every day. Most of us could never do that. We wouldn't be able to sleep at night knowing that we've deceived millions of people and it's going to lead to their enslavement. Most likely because we're not psychopaths. So it's hard for me to put myself in that position and say, well, maybe it is faked, because I have to ask myself who benefits. And in this case, they benefit in many different ways. All right, another comment. Exactly what I'm thinking. Way too many inconsistencies, and everything was somewhat neatly resolved in an odd way. The woman administering the polygraph, for example, she almost seemed like more of a handler than someone who was an impartial member of the criminal justice system. I use that term loosely, of course. Everyone just seemed to show up at the perfect moments, almost too perfect, and I'm hearing how loved he was by his family, and at the same time, they didn't really bat an eye at the thought of him doing this. Yeah, I mean, what parents would want to believe that their child did this? But they were just like, yeah, I guess he did, whatever. Can we get our check now? We're done with this acting gig. His own family seems questionable as well. I live in Colorado, grew up right by DIA. Very aware of the mind control that is bred here. Growing up in Montebello, GVR, not uncommon for us to go to the old Century 16 back in the day, and then look what they have done. That apartment was rigged. I used to go by there on my way to school with my mom every day. A lot of things that go on here are so apparent to those of us who are awake aware. A lot more fall for the BS, though. My mom grew up in North Aurora and had been near the area most of her life as well. Rocky Mountain Arsenal is also right there and connects with the airport lands. Wow. And we know those airports are pretty... I don't know, are they talking about Denver Airport? I could only assume so. There's definitely more to the story with this whole Watts family situation. Chris almost gives me the impression of a possible dissociative identity disorder case. I think he's just an actor. One thing I've wondered is if his programming was breaking down, maybe someone knew how to trigger and alter. Yeah, see, this is assuming that he's like some MK Ultra assassin, that this actually happened. No, I really don't think it did. And again, does it make any sense to dismember bodies and stuff them into an 8-inch hole in an oil drum? And pretend you're a psychopathic murderer for a second, right? And you don't want to get caught. Why would you put the bodies in your workplace where everyone knows you work, and that would possibly be a place where they would search if you're a suspect, right? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense at all. So it seems that people here are still, they're like, yes, it's a psyop, but like it happened. And that's what a lot of people are trying to say with this New Zealand thing, right? It's a false flag. No, it's a complete fabrication. It's a theatrical event, a really shitty one that I think is meant to cause dissociation because they're so sloppy with this stuff. And I also think it's to get people arguing about this and that. No, it happened. No, it didn't. Look, if you are trying to convince me that any of these things are real, you're either retarded or shilling, because what do you have invested in me believing official media narratives? What do you have invested? Is it your job to sway opinion? Are you a psychological operations worker? Maybe. Chantel says here, yeah, this is fake, unbelievably. I didn't realize they do fake murders like this. Thought it was only shootings, terrorists, and other classics. Yeah, me too, honestly. I mean, I knew they did, but I just, for some reason, didn't want to believe that this was fake. Probably because I believed it was real and I didn't want to feel stupid. Okay, I feel stupid. It's official. Embrace that, you guys. Embrace the feeling dumb. It's okay. Magic tricks work. They freaking work. All right. But remember, it's never too late to be like, oh shit, I believed that. Sorry. There's no shame in admitting you're wrong, but there's shame in not looking into these inconsistencies and things that just don't add up and just ignoring them. Like, no. You know what? No, because I want to believe this is real, okay? Because I saw it on YouTube, and you're just crazy for questioning YouTube and the mainstream media. All right, they go on. A body language expert once said that our bodies have innate emotion receptors. So if we're watching real emotion or a great counterfeit, it will automatically evoke the same emotion in us. But if we don't feel anything, then that sensor is showing its fake emotion, i.e. bad acting. Not that you have to delve that deep to call these particular actors out. Even the family photos, for one, are photoshopped. But they also just don't interact/look like a legit family in them. They look like a literal fake family you'd find in some catalog or something. This is something I'd usually shrug off as me being silly or wrong, but in light of the other evidence, gotta remember God gave us natural instincts for a reason. Also, it is definitely at least partly something to do with that bloody company. She's always mentioned it and the media kept plugging its name. Too in our face to be nothing. Also, too much of a random storyline. Could just be sponsored by them. Yeah, think about it. Thrive. So many people are talking about Thrive now because of that company. Oh, I think Thrive made her kill him. There's the vitamin patches. Or made him kill her. Sorry. Yeah, no. He's the murderer. They've been talking about Thrive, Thrive, Thrive. So, yeah. Great advertising as well. Okay. Someone else says here, well, shame on me because I looked into Anadarko and I looked into Lavelle and its owners and I looked into Ring, the video doorbell company, but somehow I missed the most important thing of all about Ring, the video doorbell company. It's owned by Amazon, which means CIA. Besides the fact that Richard Branson put $28 million into the company, meaning that he's tied up with the government too. It seems that Ring, which was obviously one of those sponsors of this psyop, was outed a few years ago and forced to admit that not only were they spying on people through these devices, but they were keeping the information that they'd obtained. I found this info on Wikipedia, and we all know that Wikipedia is a compromised site, so if it's even written there, just imagine what else there is to all of this regarding the doorbell company alone. It's just like the body scanners that were being promoted after the Las Vegas event. Heaven only knows how much information there is in this Watts event that hasn't been discovered yet. Yes. Someone else says, I tend to agree that there are so many red flags in this one, too wrapped up. The fact that he never asked for a lawyer or a warrant. Yeah, exactly. Think about if this guy really was like a murderer and he was trying to cover it up. You think he would just invite the police in? He'd be like, no, I want a warrant. I don't want you in my house. You could tamper with the evidence. He could demand a lawyer. He could demand the right to remain silent and not incriminate himself. But it all was just too perfect. And I love the body language too, because everyone's like, see? He's guilty because of his body language. He put his hands up on his head. I mean, I fell for it. I was like, yeah, that's interesting how he did that. And then when they're questioning Chris Watts in his home, all, you know, the neighbors and the one police officer, he turns on the TV just when he had done the, you know, I'm guilty body language. And there's some show about a baby in utero on TV. And everyone was like, oh my God, that's so creepy. It's like the spirit world is trying to communicate through the TV. No, it's because this is a frickin' movie set. Even though it's recorded on a body cam, it's fake. Oh, I'm so sick of all the fakery. All right, someone else, you know, they go on. Why would he leave them at his job of all places? Yeah, why would he dump the bodies there? That's the second, if not the first place they will look. Why leave her purse, phone, car, and car seats at home? He had a 130 IQ. It makes no sense. I smell a hoax. There have been many fear-mongering hoaxes like the Sandy Children hoax, that schools should have 400 kids, yet only 27 children came out. That was definitely fake. There was no Wi-Fi going into that school building. Surprised not many people questioning this one. Surprised too. Surprised I even fell for it. All right, someone says here, I live about 40 minutes from the Watts and know that area they are in has fracking going on. And now, remember Anadarko saying they're going to use counterinsurgency military-style psyops to counter anti-frackers. Pretty interesting. I also know that they put smart meters on all those new homes out there. Okay, interesting. All right, so now I figure since I have the recording on, let's just go through these new videos that I found, and I will try to explain what I'm seeing as I watch it. So they say, first, let's watch the video, the body cam stuff, and then I will help you regain control of your thoughts, because for those of you who have been caught up in this, you're being manipulated. All right, so let's see. And we're gonna watch the video when it starts. Okay, here it is. Well, shit. The police officer goes, oh, well, shit. Because it's like he flubbed the order of lines. Okay, now he's going into a closet.
Any friends do you know she would be hanging out with? I guess her parents are out of state.
Across country, North Carolina.
Oh.
All right, so let's go back. Then we're going to go through all of these. So, okay, sorry, it's kind of hard to do this. Okay, so it's just basically going over what I had just noticed about, shh. Because he's like, Chris, no, that's not the line. And then he goes back into character. Any friends she would be hanging out with? And then he goes and shines his flashlight in a random closet. And Chris is like, oh, yeah. So the phone is right there. Now, if the police officer was really interested in getting to the bottom of it, why wouldn't he have just jumped on, oh, her phone's there? Let's look at that. But the police officer is like, oh, shh. Then goes into another room. Because that wasn't part of the script, Chris. You flubbed your lines. This guy sucks at acting. I guess they had to do it all in one take, so now they're going back to the beginning of this clip again. Why does the cop put his hand over his body cam for a second? What's up with that? I don't know what the point of that would be. Yeah, so this video creator is saying, wouldn't the first thing they would do would be to go to the phone? But they had a bit more acting to do first. So he's like, all right, Chris, I'm just going to keep, like we're improvising here. I'm not going to let the audience know that you flubbed your line. I'm just going to kind of go with it. And I'm going to go look in this random closet over here. And then we'll wait. Oh, I'm going to walk past the phone that you just told me you had. I'm going to shine. I love how he's shining a flashlight inside of a home where you could just turn the freaking lights on. Like, just turn the lights on. Why do you have a flashlight right now? Turn the lights on of the house. Someone even brought up that every single fan is on in every single room of this house when supposedly no one's home. It just doesn't make any sense. I don't know. So there he is flashing the flashlight in the, in the girls' rooms, supposedly, when all he would have to do is turn on the damn lights or open up the blinds. But no, he's got to be official with. The officer acting knew you had to see inside both girls' bedrooms for phone scene. Okay, so I guess, he probably, a part of his script was that you got to go look inside of the girls' rooms before we get to the phone scene. Now it says, watch Chris standing in the corner with his back to the officer. Okay, well, what does this have to do with anything? Okay, I guess the guy in red calls action and then Chris starts the scene. So let me see if I can pick that up this time. Him actually saying action. Okay, I'm still not hearing this guy say action, but they do, after the cop has done his little look around in the rooms with his flashlight instead of turning on the actual lights, then they start talking about, oh, her phone's here. Even though he had just said that minutes ago. Oh, now it's time for the phone scene, everybody. Oh my God, her phone's here. Everyone's gathering around it. And then the best friend touches the phone and then almost does a reaction like it's hot. She's like, oh my God, the phone is here. The phone. It's just ridiculous. So, yeah. So, apparently Chris Watts's hometown is Fayetteville, North Carolina. And in Fayetteville, there's the U.S. Army Advanced Special Training at 3036 Giuseppe Street, Fayetteville, North Carolina. Just a coincidence, I guess. Someone also says, do you find it odd that the two creepy New World Order Masonic murals are located at Bank of America, Charlotte, North Carolina, and Denver, Colorado Airport? The two places Chris and Shanann lived? I don't know, kind of weird. Someone says, I just watched the body cam footage again. At one point, the officer clearly calls Chris Rick, and Chris responds, so Rick, what time do you work? At another point, the light in one of the rooms switches off. Then later on, another light switches off with nobody in the room. Then the person in red adjusts both of its bra straps or whatever it's wearing under its red t-shirt. I thought that was supposed to be a dude. Confused. Oh my God. I guess maybe not. So yeah, I recently listened to a recording of the media apparently interviewing Chris Watts in prison, and it's so fake and creepy the reporters are just laughing and giggling with Chris, and they're just, just like shooting the breeze. And okay, so like, did you have sex with that gay guy, or is that fake? And it's just all so freaking fake. So that's pretty much it for this Fired Up. I'll get into some other cases in the future that I believe were faked, or, we're not getting the official story, like Jean Bonnet and Madeleine McCann. I've been watching, the Netflix series on Madeleine McCann, and it's just so it's so obvious what they're doing to protect those parents. Now, I don't think the parents were like the only ones in on this. If this thing is even real, right? Is it even real? I don't know. But apparently there was a little Portuguese boy, Ruiz, that went missing and was apparently found to be taken into child trafficking in the Wonderland Club. And we have all these media upset, talking about Madeleine, and then this Ruiz boy is just forgotten about. So, there's a lot of interesting angles to look into. But yeah, if you watch it, it's so obvious what they're doing. They almost pretend to be a little skeptical of the parents, because if anything, it was absolute child neglect to leave their young babies and children in an apartment down the street while they're out having tapas and wine. But they apparently went to check on them every 20 minutes. Now, it also doesn't make sense that they wouldn't just use the resort's daycare that would be there at night. No, they just left them in the room alone. And also the twins, the younger children, once Madeleine was gone and everyone was ransacking the apartment, of course, tampering with a crime scene on purpose, the children apparently slept through 6 hours of everybody like talking and yelling. And so were they sedated? Were they drugged? I don't know. Looks like Clement Freud comes into play, but this documentary doesn't mention that at all. At least not yet. I doubt they will. So yeah, guys, thanks for listening. And
Okay, so like I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, I should have mentioned it again for any of you that came in late, but I did say that I did warn everyone that she's rather blunt, but here's the thing. When you're aware of these psyops and these orchestrated events, they are, for the most part, fairly easy to spot. But even she says at the beginning that even she herself was duped by the case, that Anthony had to be, put some comments in on her podcast and say, hey, look, I think you should look at this from a different perspective and not believe everything, and just because it's on body cam footage. So, I even mentioned earlier, same thing with me, because I didn't realize that they were orchestrating these events inside the true crime community. I thought they were simply limited to terrorist attacks, mass shootings, and school shootings, not these homicide and missing persons cases. So again, if you're aware and you're knowledgeable in these orchestrated events, they're fairly easy to spot. And so that's why she's pretty much doesn't have to spend the amount of time or invest that amount of time in researching the case to know that it's a psyop, pretty much. So again, I do apologize for her bluntness, but I wanted to play it because it's important. Because again, it shows that I'm not the only one that's talking about these orchestrated events, and especially in the true crime community. So again, I apologize if this was offensive to anyone, but it's important. And being respectful, like I have been, and courteous of other people's feelings if they've been affected by this case emotionally, it just really wasn't getting me anywhere, and it wasn't getting you guys anywhere. It's just wasting time, and me having to worry about walking on eggshells all the time, rewording everything, speaking in code. It's like I already have a hard enough time getting through these live streams speaking normally, let alone having to reword everything. So at this point, it's been long enough, and there's major motives and agendas happening right now with the behavior from the Ruseks and this victim harassment BS that's going on, and they're clear contradictions that they have made. So If I just keep being respectful all the time, it's not going to get us anywhere. If I lose my channel, fine. You know, I don't want to say it like that, but it's not getting us anywhere. So, I don't know what else to say about that. I'm trying to find the link to that video because she's reading the comments from the video that she said earlier that was terrible. She's reading comments from it, but she's also including her own opinions. So all the comments that she's reading is not fully 100% her opinions. So I just wanted you guys to know that as well. But like she said, the video is pretty terrible. It pretty much doesn't explain anything. But I will post the link so that you guys can go and check out the comments that she is reading from. Or that she's reading. Okay, there's a link to the Italian Lad 69 where she's reading from the comments. Welcome back, Michelle. Thank you for coming back. I don't want anyone to feel uncomfortable in my chats ever. I always wanted people to be able to speak their minds and have their opinions without having to feel attacked. So I do apologize for that. I have no control over what goes on in the chat, especially if I'm, trying to do the stream at the same time. So, I will continue. Like I said, I did write some notes down that I was going to go over, but I decided to play that podcast instead, which I'm glad I did because I'd really like to talk to you, Anthony, about it more and your opinions on these other orchestrated events. But I will continue to write down arguments and points that are being made by other channel creators and other true crime community enthusiasts that only further support my theory even more. So I will get into that hopefully in the next live stream. And I'll try to do these live streams much earlier. Again, I just try to do them whenever I can. So thank you everyone for being here. Thank you everyone for being as civil as possible. And I'll see you guys next time.